Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to Asshat Podcast here on YouTube. I'm a little bit different this time. You see a comic there. I ain't talking about the comic. I just wanted something in the stream. The other night, me and a buddy of mine were talking about trouble we got into as teenagers. I was like, I told him, I got put on, I got sent to juvie hall and got put on, 3 months probation when I want to say I was 16, but I might have been 15. I don't really remember. And he's like, what the hell happened? I started telling the story, and he's like, okay, I gotta know more. So I'm gonna go a little history here, a little of my history now. I've mentioned before I grew up in a little community called Fort Lake, Mississippi. It's right as far south as you can get Mississippi almost without hitting the water, right on the Mississippi-Alabama state line. Like if you're on I-10, heading east, that last exit in Mississippi, you gotta go north of there about 10 miles, and that's Fort Lake, Mississippi. A little tiny community. When I was out there until I moved, I was born out there in the mid-'70s. I left the area in 1997, early 97, permanently left the area. You had a couple of churches. Actually, no, only one church. It was actually in Fort Lake. You had one church, a volunteer fire department, a video store that also doubled as like a hamburger stand. It was part of a video store, like a regional chain that a friend of mine's older brother ran. The older brother ran the chain. The friend of mine and her brother's parents ran the video store, and that was it. There's nothing else out there. Really rural. I mean, we were so far out that I'll get into it in the story. Well, I grew up on a street. We had a lot of land. We had, a couple of acres, but everybody on that street had a couple of acres. Most people's property butted up against their neighbors. And most people had, so-called hurricane fences up. Well, you're facing my house to the left was Clark Devers, who my father knew. This guy was a fisherman. He was around my father's age. My mother was friends with his then wife, Linda. They had a teenage daughter who... She's probably about 10 years older than me, if I'm remembering right. And she used to babysit me when I was little. Matter of fact, she's the one who introduced me to like David Letterman and a few other things. And then on the back, that was at the front half of the property, because he had like 6 acres. He had a lot. The back part of the property, right near our fence, was his mother, who had gotten remarried since Clark's father was dead, and I'll get into that in a minute. And now... her last name was Clark, so she was known around the neighborhood as Old Lady Clark or One Eye Edda. Her first name was Edda. Now I'll explain the One Eye thing. Clark was grown by then. I know this. Her son Clark was grown by then. Edda owned a garden store or some shit like this in town. I've never gotten the full story, and it was where they were expanding the road, so they're going to buy the property, and she got a pile of money off of it. So Clark was a fisherman. He really never had to work. His mama had a pile of money. Well, she came home from work one day. She was married to Clark's father, who I never got to meet. He died before I was born. Walks in the house, goes back in the bedroom, and Clark's father's on the bed fucking some woman. So Edda pulls her gun. She always carried a pistol. Pulls her gun on him. He pulls a gun on her, and he fires. The bullet goes into her head. She had a bullet. I don't remember which side. It was either left or right side. Right. She had like a dent in her head right near her eye. That one eye was all crossed and she couldn't see. That's why she was One-Eyed Edda. She fires at the same time he fires the gun and shoots him, and he dies. So she gets all this money. It's ruled self-defense. She doesn't do any time. She ended up getting remarried. And the guy she married's last name was Clark. So her name now was Clark, Edda Clark. And it was kind of weird. At first, we never had not many big issues with her until Clark and his wife, Linda, split up. And my mother especially took Linda's side. They helped her move out and all this stuff. And start with little small things like, I remember I was probably 10, 11. I come home from school. At the time, my mother was working, my father was working. So I come home from school to be by myself for about an hour or so. Come home and our entire, most of our yard's burnt. Old Lady Clark, old One-Eyed Edda, had a bad habit of going out about lunchtime and putting a bunch of leaves and trash in her yard, stirring it on fire, and go inside to watch her soap opera and just falling asleep, and the wind catch fire and burn our yard. So I call my mother at work, and she's like, okay, I'll call the fire department. Of course, by the time they get there, they can't prove anything. Edda's already been out in the yard and took care of with me. So And her thing was, oh, some bum walking down the street threw out a cigarette. Bitch, it just rained that day. Like the day before, it was not that dry. What bum's gonna walk down a one-way? First thing, where we live, you didn't see bums walking down the street. Second thing, this was a dead-end road. Like it went from Maples Lane to where it connected. It connected into Maples Lane, went all the way to the end. There was nothing else down there, just a bunch of houses. So that pissed me off. Pissed a bunch of my friends off because she kept on getting away with this shit. Then I found she was doing other shit like on the other side of her property. She was on the corner. The other side of her property, the fence line met up with the Rogers family. Now they had 4 boys and 1 girl. The next youngest child, the youngest boy, was like 2 years older than me, but he got held back in 1st grade, so... No, he was a year older than me. He got out in 1st grade, so we're in the same. I started school. We're in the same grade. Joey's his name. Known Joey all my life. Known his brothers, Eddie, Craig, Scotty. I remember when his little sister Heather was born, who's like 4 or 5 years younger than us. Me and Joe were like 5 or 6 when I was 5 or 6 when she was born. Well, they raised rabbits and chickens and all this shit. When they died, they just bury them in their property. She called the cops on them one time because they were burying it on their own property, too close to the fence line. You did anything in this neighborhood she didn't like, she called the cops on you. So I'm pissed off about the burning yard. Joey and his brothers are pissed off about this, so we decided we're going to start pranking this old lady. And it started off with simple things like, we'd sneak out. One of us would sneak out Saturday night, late Saturday night, with a can of shaving cream and just fill up her mailbox with shaving cream. So we knew she wouldn't go open it up till Monday. Little simple stuff like that. Skip ahead. I am now 14. My father had this old truck he bought and then got another vehicle, so it sat in the back corner of our property. So I gas and take trucks and ranges and drive it. This bitch burns our yard again, and the gas gets all around the truck, could have blew it up. So I'm pissed. She called the cops on the people who lived across. Okay, her driveway went out on the Revere Road, where we lived on. Her son's driveway went out onto Maples Lane. As you come out of the driveway, direct across the street was the Abston family. They moved out there when I was in like 6th grade. Jason was the son. He's about my age. He was out in his yard playing football, and the ball landed in her yard, and he just walked over, picked it up, came back. She called the cops on him. So he's pissed about that. So one night, him and a couple friends spent the night at his house. Late at night on like a Friday, Saturday night, snuck up, and she had these ceramic deer in the yard, like 2/3 scale of a real deer, made out of like ceramic or some kind of hard stuff. They just tipped them over. I'm gonna skip ahead. There's a few other little things that happened here and there. Not major. One that I definitely remember is I was in. I think it was my last year in junior. It was my last year in junior high. It was New Year's Eve. My buddy Russell come over to spend the night at New Year's Eve. Like, yeah, sure, not a problem. We're out in my backyard. Give me a second. Sorry about that, my dryer went off. We're out in my backyard. It's New Year's Eve. We're shooting off bottle rockets and Roman candles and shit. We're aiming them from my backyard into the woods behind my house. What's behind my house was owned by the one church out in the area. It was a offshoot of Assembly of God, because they were weird. Like, the women wore the long skirts and had the hair up in buns. The guys didn't wear shorts and all this shit. But that's like, you couldn't have a TV. TV was the devil. The antenna on your roof was the devil's pitchfork. Just all kinds of crazy shit. We're shooting about. All of a sudden, starts to come back our way. What the hell? And we've realized that Joey, my buddy Joey, another buddy of ours, Randall, who lived in the area, he lived in Franklin Creek, which is right down the road. But by this time, he was about a year older, so he had access to a car. He'd come out. And they're out in the woods shooting fireworks. So we're having a fireworks. We're shooting bottle rockets. Now, Edda is to the left of us. Her trailer had a metal roof. We're shooting off, and probably about 30 minutes after midnight, I was like, all right, y'all come on in. There is no noise ordinance out there. You can be as loud as you fucking want because it's outside the city limits. Way outside the city limits. But, trying to be respectful. It's New Year's Eve, so you can be loud till about midnight. So, me and my buddy come in. As soon as we get in the room to go watch me, my phone rings. I call the cops on you. You trying to set my roof on fire with them fireworks. I call the cops on you. Okay, I hang up. She calls me, what'd you hang up on me for? I just hang up again. Well, 20, 30 minutes later, police cruiser comes pulling up in the yard. Dad's freaking out. I was like, oh, I had to call the cops on us. I'll walk outside and talk to them. So I walked outside. This time I was 14-ish. Yeah, I was about 14. I was about halfway to 15. You know, I was like, yes. And I was like, me and my buddy was with me. He's a year older than me. We were in the same grade. He'd been held back. I was like, we're shooting bottle rockets into the woods behind the house. And I'm coming in and I go, it's bottle rockets and Roman candles. She's got a metal ribbon. And the cop basically told us that, yeah, she calls the cops on all her neighbors a lot. We don't answer most of the calls. We don't respond to a lot of them. Cops told us that. So, skip ahead a little bit. I'm now in high school. I was 15 or 16. I don't remember what year this actually happened. I'd have to look. And it's one weekend. Nothing going on. There's no concerts going on. No movie came out I wanted to see. So me and a bunch of friends decided we're going to go in the woods back behind my place at the church home. We got permission from the church. Joey's family went to that church. Joey asked the pastor. He's like, yeah, y'all have a little fire. And we're going to run an extension cord from my dad's workshop. It was right up against the fence out there into the woods to hook up a little CD player and just have some music. Don't be loud. My mother happened to be home that time. My father was out working on the road. And she knew we were doing this. She had her window cracked. So she's like, y'all get too loud, I'll come tell you. So there's about, I don't remember how many of us there's out there. There's at least 8 of us. All the way from my buddy Little Colin, who was like 2 years younger than us. He was probably the youngest out there. All the way up to like Joey's oldest brother, Craig, came out there. We're out there. We're not loud. Yeah, somebody had smuggled some beer from their dad's house. We're drinking a couple of beer. We're like, oh man, we got 6 cans. Or each one of us gets half. One dude bought a pack of cigarettes, so we're smoking cigarettes. Nothing really that bad. I mean, come on, we're 15, 16, 13. It could be a lot worse. All of a sudden, Craig, Joey's older brother, Craig, I guess he came over to see the parents. They told him we're out there. So he's like, oh, Joey's other brother, Eddie, was there. And this is vital important. Eddie, at the time, had already turned 18. He was in his last year of high school. He was 18. Craig was grown. Craig was like 20-something because Craig's the oldest. He comes walking. He's like, hey, what y'all doing, guys? We're talking. We turned the CD player down a little bit. We're talking and shit. And all of a sudden we hear, what y'all bunch of motherfuckers doing? And it's Clark and his mother, Edda, at the fence back on her property. Y'all need to go fucking home, just yelling at us. So, of course, Craig's like, shut the fuck up, fat man, and One Eye Edda. And Clark's like, come over the fence and tell me that shit. And Craig's like, none of y'all go over the fence. If you do, he could shoot you for trespassing. As long as we're over here, we're safe. So we're yelling back. We're like, fuck you, fat man, all this shit. We're teenagers. We got, a little beer at us. We're hopped up. Then we hear, shh. I'm like, motherfucker. And I just take off running. And there's a little bit past the woods, there's this big-ass dormitory the church built for their summer camp. And I knew they never locked the door, so I hear 2 gunshot blasts and a couple pistol shots. And I'm already in the back door of that dormitory, and I'm in the bed, hiding in there. I'm like, okay, I'm safe in here. And I hear more yelling and shit. I peek my head out the door and I hear my mother at the back fence. No, sorry, take that back. Before I hear my mother, the guy who lived across the street from us, Rick, who was like in his 30s, worked on the railroad, was home maybe like 3 days out of the month. Nice guy, obviously a stoner, long hair. He heard it come running, had ran past my mom's bedroom window, Miss Cox, something's going on with the boys. And at the back fence yelling at Clark, fuck you, fat man, I'll fight your fucking fat ass, all this crazy shit. Well, my mother comes out there and she's like, boys, just come to the fence. We all go to the fence. And she's yelling at Clark. Clark's yelling at us. And she's like, he tells Liz to go there. She's like, I'll see you there, you fat fucker. And my mom did cuss much. Like, hell would be a bad word to her. She's calling him a fat fuck. And we're all egging her on. So everybody kind of goes home. The people that can. Some people have been dropped off with their parents. Say, okay, you spend the night here, you spend the night here. Well, that was on a Friday. Saturday morning, my mom's calling all the parents. Okay, look, we got to do something about this. They shot at our fucking kids. So she talks, and a bunch of parents agree, we're going to go down to the courthouse. We're going to press charges. They shot at our fucking kids. By the time we went down, the only parents that would do it is the Absons, Jerry Abson, Jason's daddy, because Jason was out there, and the Rogers, Joey, and Scotty were out there. And like I said, Scotty's 18. And Craig, of course, Craig's grown. We press charges. It's going to go to court. Clark gets a continuance because We pressed charges on him. I don't remember if we pressed charges on his mother or not. But, continuance. Like 2 of them. So we're like, okay, fuck this shit. Me and all my friends were like, we're going to get this bitch back. So we decided that, and I'm going to leave some names out in part of this. And part of this I'm not proud of, but hey, that's how we're going to get her back. Well, my buddy that was there when we were doing the fireworks that night, by this time worked at a local grocery store, and they had this promotional thing. If you bought like a couple of boxes of some type of cereal, you got a free thing of Play-Doh. So I got him to give me a pile of Play-Doh, blue Play-Doh. And I sat there for like half of one evening making this big blue Play-Doh dick. Like, using a knife to sculpt it. It looked real. It looked like a Smurf dick. And late that night, because I was always up late, I had a roll of duct tape. I snuck out, went out my window, hopped the fence, got old Edda Clark's yard, and duct taped that big-ass Play-Doh dick on over deer. The next morning, as we're walking out, because we all had to walk to the end of the street to catch the bus. We're all walking the street. She's out in the yard with that Play-Doh dick in her hand, shaking it out. I know y'all motherfuckers did this. Yelling this shit at us. Excuse me. Well, then, somebody in the group that was shot at decides, okay, that ain't enough. This bitch shot at us. His dad was a roofer. Do you know what roofing tacks are? They have a very flat hand. They're very, very sharp. He got a big-ass bag of roofing tacks. And sometime between after we decided we're going to press charges and before the trial actually happened with the court, him and some other people, she had a shell driveway. Spread these roofing tacks all over her driveway. The next day when old Edda Clark got in her car to back it up, she popped 2 tires. Well, somebody else decided that was not enough. So they snuck into her yard. We knew she did not lock her door. And this was brave because this old bitch always had a gun on her. And she'd shoot your ass. Snuck into her yard, opened up her car door, and took a big, massive shit on her driver's seat. One thing I'll admit to doing is my dad had a shrimp boat. You know, when you peel shrimp, you got the shrimp holes in them things. When they get hot, they begin to stink and they rot. So one time, between when we got shot at and pressed charges and the trial happened, we got our shrimp holes, empty milk cartons, like the cardboard ones. We put them in their staple shut, put it in the freezer. When it came time for trash, I would throw it out in the trash. Well, I took one of those, and excuse me, and it put it out somewhere way in the backyard. I might have put it in the woods behind us. I don't remember now. Where they get, they defrost, be starting to smell. And then late one night on a Saturday, snuck over to old Edda Clark's mail and paper box and stuffed both of them full of shrimp holes. When she went to go get her mail on Monday, it just stunk to high heaven. Trial continuance. Then all of a sudden, we get a letter in the mail. I got to go to juvie hall. I've had charges pressed on me at juvenile hall. My buddy Joey has had charges pressed on him at juvenile hall. His brother Scotty, who's had charges pressed on him at juvenile hall. Jason Abston, who's had charges pressed on him at juvenile hall. And Rick, who lives across the street, who was in his 30s, had charges pressed on him at juvenile hall. This old bitch went down to juvenile hall, and all this shit that happened to her, it said we were the masterminds behind it. So we got to go down there. Well, Scotty gets down there, find out he's 18. He might have been 19. I don't know. You can't do shit. You're not juvenile. Get the fuck out. Rick, and they're like, what the hell? This dude's in his 30s. He's like, motherfucker. He only has like 3-4 days a month home for work. He's got to spend it down there for a while. He's like, fuck this. So I get down there, and Joey's already been through. And Joey's like, man, he goes, just remember, don't admit the shit. I'm like, yeah, not a problem. And we're sitting there, and they call Jason in, and Jason comes by, and he's just shaking his head. He just looks at me, he just looks like, dude, you're fucked. Okay. So I walk in there, and I got my mother with me. And the guys ask, okay, well, did you put roof protection? No, I didn't put roof protection. I don't know what you're talking about. The shrimp holes thing, and I'm like, I don't know. My mom's looking at me like, she knows I did that. She's like, it's obvious. He goes, well, what about this? And he pulls out, she held onto that big blue Play-Doh dick I made and sticks it on this. He goes, it's got fingerprints in it. We'll take your fingerprints. I'm like, motherfucker. So I know they got me like, yeah, I made it. Didn't say I put it on there, just said I made it. I got 3 months probation. I had to be home at, I want to say, now I live in the Central Time Zone. I want to say it's like 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturdays unless I was working. I could not miss school, and that was for 3 months. I could not miss school for 3 months, and that was it. So finally, after all this shit, it comes, the court comes. And we got to miss part of school. My mom comes and picks me up. She's actually around that time. Jason's dad's got him. Joey's, both his parents got him. Jason's mom, I don't know where Jason's mom was. Jason's dad had been married quite a few times. Jason had a bunch of half-brothers and sisters. So we get there. And they call Joey up. And it turns out when we get there, Clark knows the judge. He got him a fancy lawyer. He's got a public defender. Yeah, we don't need a fancy lawyer. They called Joey up there, and Joey asked him. Joey's like, yeah, he cussed us out. And Edda cussed us out. And we heard guns. And the whole thing was we never saw the actual gun in hand. We saw the couple of the kids, Joey and Jason saw the muzzle flash of the shotgun. I didn't because I was already hauling out. I heard that shotgun red. I took off. And back then, I hadn't blown my knee. I could run like a son of a bitch. But we didn't see it in our hands. That was a big sticking thing. And then they called me up there. And I tell them the whole story. And I didn't see the muzzle flash, but it was them. I go, Edda carries a pistol around constantly, waves it around, threatens to shoot people, Because we never saw the guns in their hands, we could not get them for that. But we did get them because there's a law back then on the books of Mississippi. You're not allowed to cuss around minors. And every one of us was still a minor at the time. We were all 17 or younger. So they got him for 3 counts of that. I want to say his total fine was like $900. And except when he was on his own property, he couldn't be within a certain amount of distance of us. Here's the thing. Our property butted up against his. Joey's did too. Jason was right across the street. So this fucker got him. We were pissed. This fucker got off. So, many times we knew Clark was getting ready to leave, one of the 3 of us would go stand in the street right in front of his driveway. You can't come out. We would fuck with the guy. Now, not too long after I left the area, I'll give you another example of something this bitch did. And this is how stupid she was. All right, I'm grown. I'm 20, 21, 22, somewhere around there. I haven't left the area yet. So we're going to have a party at my house. A friend of mine's soon-to-be wife's best friend was getting married. So we're going to throw her bachelorette party at my house. Cool, not a problem. A bunch of friends of mine are coming out to the house. They've only been out there once. So we're like, fuck, we got to make sure they know how to get out here. It's getting nighttime. Me, my buddy Q-Ball, that's a nickname. My buddy Callaway, that's just a name. And somebody else, I don't know who it was, around the front here shooting off fireworks. Like, they'll see the fireworks. This is like, it's nice and comfortable outside. So it was like November, January, February, I think it was like January, February, because I remember it being kind of cold. We had a little party. And we had like 2 kegs of beer, and there was people under 21 there drinking. I ain't gonna lie about that shit. Yeah, fuck it. Well, party's going on. We had the music up a little bit, and it wasn't even like 10 o'clock at night yet. That was kind of my rule at parties in my house. Okay, if it's on the weekend, we can go to 11, then I got to start turning the noise down. So I got elderly people living near me, kind of being nice. So, it's like 9:30. Phone rings. People knew rule at my house. Party going on. Phone rings. Everybody just shuts up. Stop the stereo. Everybody just quiet. Hello? I called the cops and y'all raising the racket. They'll be out here in 30 minutes. Thanks for the warning, One Eye Edda. And I hang up the phone. I'm like, all right. And there's like 10 cars in my yard just piled here. Like, look, cops are coming. Real simple. Everybody pile up in the cars. Follow me. I'll lead y'all. There's a church right down the road. Y'all can park there. It won't look suspicious. And I had like 4 or 5 bills like, y'all stay at the house, get these kegs out of the fucking house, go over the fence with them, and put them a little bit into the woods. Cops are not going to search back there, if they even come. And I was like, everybody, when you park your cars, just stay with your cars. I'll walk back to the house. So we do this. 30 minutes later, police cruiser pulls up in the yard. I go to the front door. Hey, officer, how you doing? We had call about a wild, loud party. I'm like, just 2 cars here. That's my car and girl on Whit's car. I was like, he goes, well, you mind if we come in? I said, yeah, come on in. He walks in, and there's like me and her and like 3 other people sitting in the living room. We're watching Star Trek Next Generation. He goes, wild party, huh? I was like, yeah, man, we're watching Star Trek. There ain't nothing else on. I don't have cable, And he tells me then, okay, yeah, she calls the cops a lot. We don't usually respond to them, but we decided, every once in a while we got to, just keep it down. Yeah, not a problem. He leaves. I wait about 15 minutes. I hop the fence. Me and my buddies hop the fence. We get the kegs back in the house, and we go get the people in the house. Excuse me, go get the people from the church. They come back. She did all this shit. There's other stuff she did I can't even remember now. Like, she was known, if you had a dog that was loose in your yard and it was close to her property, it barked a lot, she would soak hot dogs in antifreeze and throw them in the yard so the dog would eat it and die. She was known for just being a total bitch. So I moved in 97. 98, after I moved, I was talking to Joey. Joey's the one that told me this. She ended up getting put in her service. Her second husband, or I don't know if that was her second or third husband, had died. He had throat cancer. He had one of those tracheotomy things. He died. So she got put in a nursing home, and she would call all the people in the area all the time. Oh, I miss you so much. I'm like, what the hell, One Eye Edda? She ended up dying in 99. And from what I've been told, everybody in the neighborhood threw a big-ass party. Clark died probably about 6-7 years ago. I don't know who has that property. I know he sold his mama's property and cut it. He cut the property in half and sold his mom's trailer and the property to somebody that lived there. I don't even know who's living in the house I grew up in anymore. After I moved out, we ended up selling it in like 98, 99, somewhere around there. Some friends of the family's 2 boys moved into it. One of them moved out fairly quick. The other one ended up with some issues. Fucked the place up pretty bad. Ended up getting sold to this guy who, my buddy Joey's little sister, Heather, ended up moving in there with her new husband because it was like their uncles renting to them. She's not in there anymore. I don't know who lives there. I got some other Forest Lake stories. So if this does good, I'll tell some more. But that's One Eye Edda. And like I said, I left out some names. That's how everything happened. She took a shot at us and we pulled pranks on her. Hope y'all enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, all the other bullshit. Talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.